And welcome to the Huddle, NCAA Tournament Edition. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris, KGA9's weekly streaming sports talk show. Pat, good afternoon. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Wearing the green tie.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day, always my birthday, so thank you very much.
Such an experienced pro. Yeah. Pat knew not to wear a Kelly green tie because it would key out with the green screen behind us. So he's got the dark green tie. Arizona basketball, #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's going to be our focus, of course, today as March Madness captivates the nation. And we'll start, Pat, with our Huddle poll question as we take a look at the bracket that was announced the other day. Which team stands in the way of Arizona's run to the Final Four? Which team would give them the most trouble? That's our Huddle poll question. You can vote on our X account. Do you think it's Arkansas, Wisconsin, Purdue, or Gonzaga? I know what I picked. I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, all of them offer different challenges, right? And potential issues that the Wildcats would face at some point during this journey. I happen to pick Purdue because of all those four lists that I know everybody's on the bandwagon of Arkansas, but I really do think Purdue is the best of those four teams that we're looking at right there and could put up the biggest challenge. Wisconsin, I'm not as worried about them. Gonzaga doesn't look, Jason, like the Gonzaga teams we've seen over the last 15 years.
Well, that's the big storyline, though, if Tommy Lloyd goes up
against
the team where he was
an
assistant coach for 19 years.
They keep throwing it out there, and potentially it would happen.
But our question's not what's the biggest storyline, it's which team would give Arizona the biggest fits.
I look at it like the Big 12 is the best conference. The Big 10 is the next biggest conference. The SEC and the ACC are not great, though. And that's why I think the biggest challenge will come from the best team of that four, and that's Purdue.
Well, I'm going with Arkansas, and it's for one reason. It's Darius Acuff Jr. When you have a point guard who's that good and who makes everybody around him better and doesn't turn the ball over and has helped Arkansas to win the SEC tournament title in 10 of its last 12 games, that can be dangerous along with Calipari. I know Arkansas doesn't have a great defense, right?
No, they have no defense. That's the defense they have.
But, you know, you don't need us to tell you that the toughest bracket is in the East. Arizona has a good bracket, has a good draw, and has a great path to get to the Final Four, beginning with its first couple of games in San Diego against LIU.
I will say this: they've gone up against other great players all season long, and Arizona has, and they've been able to neutralize them just enough. A DeBonsa or somebody like that, and so that's what gives me hope.
Kingston Flemings, the Houston point guard, similar position.
Yeah. And
I tell you what's funny though. At the watch party for Arizona, when Wisconsin came on the bracket, there were some groans. There's some PTSD.
There's PTSD.
But this is not a Wisconsin team that has Frank Kaminsky, who was the NCAA Player of the Year. He was the National Player of the Year, along with Sam Decker. You know, Wisconsin did beat Arizona in back-to-back Elite Eights in 2014 and 2015. The first game was a one-possession game. The second game was a blowout. This team doesn't have that, and they have since met in the regular season with the team splitting. But there is still some angst from what Wisconsin did a decade ago.
And that's that. You know, we've got 25 years of a drought of making the Final Four, so that goes along with the same, you know, that dread sometimes that Arizona fans have about, can we really get excited about this team, because it's been nothing but heartbreak for 25 years since they lost to Duke in 2001 in the national title game. And I get it, but as you and I were talking, we mentioned it quickly on the air yesterday on KGA9, but also we talked about it off the air, and that is, this is a whole new year, and this is a whole new team, and you can try to compare them to those early teams here under Sean Miller, but this is a different team than that. I think this is a more complete team. This is a better team. This has more athletes. I can go right down the line,
shows it.
And it's the best team Arizona's ever had record-wise, and they had the 23-0 start.
Well, Pat, if they do the big thing here, this will go down as the best Arizona team ever.
There's no question. You look at the '97 team, and while they win the national championship, a lot of people think the 2001 team was better, but they ran up against Duke in the championship game, and that was a 3-point game with 3 minutes to go. Duke figured out a way to pull it out. Arizona didn't. This team while they had those 2 losses there that we both, really wish they wouldn't have lost. You understand the Kansas loss, the Texas Tech loss, they were undermanned and they lost in overtime at home. Had they won that, they'd be the number 1 overall seed for sure. But I look at this team as they figured out a way to win in those back-to-back games against Iowa State and against Houston in the Big 12 tournament. And I think that, to me, solidified my thoughts that this is a Final Four team and has a chance to win it all.
Also, 2 months at number 1. They were a number 1 team for 9 weeks during the season. What do you make today of not one Arizona player being named to the AP All-American team?
Yeah.
I know Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley were named honorable mention, right? Do you think that speaks to the job Tommy Lloyd does? But I think if you say that, it almost takes away from the talent of the team. Or do you think it speaks more to how many different guys can beat you on a different night and how good they are?
I think that's all it points to, is that this is, while the Big 12 coaches said that Jaden Bradley was the best player in the he was the most valuable, he was the player of the year, when you go nationally, you look at 10 other guys that you put before Jaden Bradley, but none of them are more important to the success of their team than Jaden Bradley is to the University of Arizona. So would you like to see him get more national accolades? I would. That's not going to happen. It's a testament to a team that is built that any one of, say, 7 of the 8 guys that get regular playing time can be the leading scorer of that game and can really affect the outcome of the game.
Well, they actually used Jaden Bradley not making the preseason All-American teams as motivation going into the year, because you heard Tommy Lloyd say that after the game in Las Vegas against Florida to open the season. I don't think that's the case here.
No.
When they don't need a little extra motivation to play Long Island on, this is the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's a motivating factor here. I do think the Wisconsin losses were a motivating factor when they played Wisconsin in the regular season, because they actually brought some players out over a video conference to, kind of juice up the team. I don't think that's going to be used as motivation. Will be interesting to see how many Coach of the Year awards that Tommy Lloyd does get. Already the Sporting News Coach of the Year.
Yeah, you would like to see that, because if anything, you look at what the job Tommy Lloyd's done at 32-2 and winning the Big 12 regular season and the Big 12 tournament title, and you say, well, this is a heck of a coaching job. And coaching nowadays, Jason, isn't just the X's and O's and the when to call timeouts and what rotation you should do. It's the recruiting, right? And so I think it begins and ends right there, that Tommy Lloyd put together a team that he even said in the very beginning of this team coming together, that this team could be special, and he was right.
We're going to look back a little bit today at 6 o'clock on his first number 1 seed in 2022. And you look at some of those other teams, he's had a 1, 2, 2, 4, and a 1 seed.
Right.
But when you look at some of those other teams that were maybe a 1 seed or maybe a 2 seed a couple of years later, they don't compare to this team.
Not even close,
When you
Jason.
look up and down the roster.
No.
I mean, I don't mean to knock, Courtney Ramey and Cedric Henderson Jr. and the team that lost to Princeton when Kirk Kriisa had a bad game. But you go up and down that starting 5, and that doesn't compare to this team.
No, it really doesn't. And I think, I had Ryan Hansen on. Was it last week? I think when you were off, and Ryan Hansen, the color analyst for Arizona basketball on radio, and of course a member of Lute Olson's staff, not only in '97 when we won the championship, but in '01 when they went to the Final Four, the championship game and lost to Duke. He always talks about you got a ceiling of a team, and Arizona's ceiling is huge, right? Arizona, when it plays its best, it's probably the best team in America. It's always about the floor, because when you play a tournament game, your floor your floor has to be your worst possible game, and the floor for this team is much higher than it's been, say, over the last 25 years, because of that 8 guys that any of them can step up and really contribute, especially maybe 7 of them could be your leading scorer at any time. And that's what gives him, and I agreed with him, hope that this team, even if they have one of those bad games, a Princeton game, they're not going to lose that Princeton game
Yeah, the issue that year is they didn't have somebody to say, hey, I'm taking the team on my back and we're not going to lose this game. And you've seen them get down in games before, and this team has so much poise that if they did get down, I think they would be mentally tough enough to come back from that. I'm going to give Ryan, our producer, a second to bring up some graphics. Here they are. All right, so this is, Arizona goes to San Diego. It's got a nice, short trip here for the first couple rounds. LIU's coached by Rod Strickland, a former NBA point guard, was a heck of a point guard. Actually played for Portland, so Tommy Lloyd, very familiar with him growing up in that part of the country.
Right.
I haven't looked yet at Villanova and Utah State. I'm just kind of waiting to see who wins that game before.
And that's a heck of an 8-9 matchup.
Well, they wanted
by the
to
way.
put, we'd heard they wanted to put Villanova on the 8 line and a couple of teams with some name recognition to kind of give decent TV games in the second round. Arizona Villanova, does sound like
a great matchup.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this isn't 5, 7, 10 years ago, but.
Or just a few.
A few years ago, definitely.
No, I think you're right.
But I think
maybe 5 or 6 years
ago. I've looked briefly at this LIU matchup, and you would expect Arizona to take care of this game. LIU really doesn't have a resume that even looks very good at all. 216 in the Ken Palm, 198 in the net ranking.
10 losses on the year.
They are 0-5 combined against quad 1, 2, and 3, so they have no wins above quad 4.
That's why they're a 16 seed.
That's why they're a 16 seed. And so Arizona plays the game they're supposed to play. What I really like, Jason, is that they're playing on Friday, because after the gauntlet of the end of the season, after the gauntlet of the Big 12 tournament, you and I joke, but even 19-year-olds got to get tired at some point, right? And I think it's a great time. You still worry a little bit about Jaden Bradley and the hand and the thumb or whatever it was, but we'll see how he comes through with that.
Yeah, they didn't practice Sunday or Monday. Today was the first day they practiced. Since that. So here's a little fleshed out of the bracket. If they get to the Sweet 16, there's a lot of people who are picking High Point over Wisconsin. I'm not sure why. But we are seeing that a little bit. And then there's the Arkansas-Hawaii. I don't think anybody is expecting Arkansas to lose to Hawaii, given how well Arkansas has been playing recently. But that'll be a good matchup for Arkansas and Wisconsin. And if Arizona gets out of San Diego, Arizona would play the winner of that little mini bracket there in the Sweet 16. Yeah. So that's the that part of the West. And if you look even further, you're looking at possibly a Gonzaga or Purdue matchup. A couple interesting storylines. Purdue actually has a player from Queensland who went to Cochise County, Cochise College. It's a college here in southeastern Arizona. Interesting storyline. But the big storyline, of course, and we'll get to that in a couple of weeks if it happens. That'll be a giant national storyline with Gonzaga. I mean, Tommy Lloyd calls that family. It's a situation where I think they canceled a game his first year here that they were going to play against Gonzaga.
Right. They just didn't want to even have to deal with it.
He was there for 19 years. That's a long time and helped build the program. So, at some point they're going to have to play each other. Maybe it's this year. That certainly would be a lot of fun and make for an interesting storyline if Tommy Lloyd has to go up against his old team in the Elite Eight to get this Arizona program that hasn't been to a Final Four in 25 years to the Final Four.
Yeah, and that's it. And as we've been talking, who's the biggest team standing in their way? And you've got two of them in this bottom half of the bracket with Gonzaga. You would think, although I've seen a lot of people picking Miami, and I'm not sure why, to kind of run through this bottom half of the West, and then you've got Purdue. Purdue continues to get overlooked at times, Jason, I think because they had a strong start to the season. They really kind of lost their way. But then here the last few weeks, Purdue's played a little bit better, and they've kind of become that Purdue that you don't want to have to face. So we'll see. Now, if you're the 1 seed, you're going to have to face a 2 or a 2 or a 3 in that game at the end of this bracket before you go to the Final Four, and none of them are easy when you get to that point.
Jason Barr, Pat Parris is the Huddle, King of Nine's weekly streaming sports talk show. Tournament begins today with a couple of first 4 games, including former Arizona coach Sean Miller
Texas,
in the playing game. I feel like he's had a couple of playing games. Did he have Xavier in a playing game against Texas last year or something?
Yeah, and then he ends up going to Texas. And they've had a pretty strong season. He remember that he called out his players at one point about
we're going to foul.
We're going to foul. You're going to foul. We're going to foul. We're going to foul.
Yeah.
They settled down and they had a pretty good season.
Yeah. All right. Well, we our new segment this year is called the 2-minute warning. That's a football term. We're talking basketball today, so maybe we call it the The under 4 timeout?
The under 4 timeout.
We could call
crunch time. It's crunch time.
Yeah, we call it the under 4 timeout. All right, we have not seen these questions before, so we're reacting here in real time. It is the 2-minute warning. All right, let's go. First down. Which Wildcat player will be the X factor of March? Okay, well, that's the whole thing about this team, is that there is no one player who they have to stop. And I had people out of town asking me, I'm like, well, maybe in the first round, Krivas, because LIU may not have a big man to try to, somebody that size to try to defend him. But so I go Krivas with the first round, but as far as the whole tournament, I'm going to go either Bradley or Burries.
Yeah, that's the easy answer, Bradley or Burries, right?
Oh, you think it's going to be Ivan Karchenkov?
I think it might. Well, I think Karchenkov will continue to have to step up defensively, and he's been very good defensively. I'm going to go, and that's the whole thing. We're talking 6 games, or at least 4 of these games in March. So if we just say the 4 games in March, I think Tobe Awaka might be an X factor. Okay. I'm just going to go out on a limb a little bit and say Tobe Awaka.
As grown men, we really don't have favorite players. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I have people come up and ask me, "Who's your favorite Wildcat?" And I actually do say Tobe Awaka whenever anybody asks me.
Yeah, well, there's no question, because he is Mr. Calm, cool, and collected, but he's a beast on the court. And did you notice the last game?
I finally got to see him argue a call.
He was getting mad about some calls.
He never argues a call. There was so obvious foul that wasn't called against him, and he went like this. Right?
I have a feeling that we get to know those officials a little bit because we see them all the time. They get to know them really well, because sometimes they even call them by their first name, and the referees know the players really well. And I think sometimes you get tired of going against the same guys all the time. I think he feels like he's going against the same refs all the time, and he got in foul trouble, and he shouldn't have. I didn't think that was a foul either.
All right, second down, or maybe we'll call it 2 minutes to go. All right, and that would be, who should have more shot attempts in March? Pete or Bradley?
Wow.
I really think, the first answer is going to sound like a cop-out, so I'll change it up here, because the first honest thought is, well, you got to see and let the game, let the game dictate what that is. But what I'm seeing here in the notes, that this should be for the whole
tournament. We're talking the whole NCAA tournament.
Who should have more? Well, the answer is Koa Pete, because Bradley's the point guard and he should distribute. So I got to go with Koa Pete.
And it also depends on the time of the game. I want Koa Pete shooting the entire game
when he's open. Crunch time,
but in crunch time,
that's right.
That's when you want Jaden Bradley. Now, Jaden Bradley's going to get opportunities. When he's open for a 3, he needs to hit it. He did it over the weekend on the tournament. But I think Koa Pete should have more shots.
Okay. All right, third down, so we'll call this 1 minute to go. Should MLB pitchers care more about WBC?
Should they care more?
Should they care more about the World Baseball Classic?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yes, as a baseball fan who's American, who wants to see USA do well, you want them to get. But you know what? They can only care to a certain point. So I understand why some of them are still have to say, now look, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to pitch my 3 innings or 4 innings, but I got to worry about the rest of the season. It's only March, for goodness sake. So I wish they could care more, but I don't blame them if they back off just a little bit.
I'll say they should then, because all these pitchers are on such pitch counts. It's like 6 innings is the modern complete game now. They barely go more than 180 innings a year. They could pitch a few innings in this. I think they'll be fine. So I'll go yes.
All right.
Okay. Fourth down, or we're calling with under 30 seconds to go in the basketball edition.
Which takes an hour.
Is March the best sports month of the year?
Absolutely.
So the correct answer is it depends, right? Well, and what it depends upon is where you live. So if you're in a college basketball town like we are, yes, I think, Pat, you gave the appropriate answer, absolutely. And in Tucson, absolutely, for sure, hands down, in spades. But for a lot of the country, Pat, college basketball is a 1-month season. Now, that's still in March, so it makes March the best sports month of the year. But you can make a case when you have the NFL overlapping with the Major League Baseball playoffs, and also, I think it also even coincides with the start of some of the other seasons, there is an argument to be made in some parts of the country for that time period. But I think for here, for sure, it's March.
And I understand what you're saying, and I get it. You can take little snippets, but if you're just going to say a whole month, it's hard to argue with this month being the best month in the calendar year of sports. I think what happens is we just get so locked in on the Thursday through Sunday of the first weekend, the Thursday through Sunday of the second weekend, and then those two games. I think everybody understands what March Madness is. It's the one and done. I mean, if you don't win, you go home. I think it trumps all other playoffs in all the other sports. It just does for me, and I'm biased because I'm a huge college basketball fan.
Okay, October is the only other option. I agree with that. Okay, we do have a couple of comments here. Pat, are you going to be in San Diego?
Yes.
I remember the last time I saw you were in San Antonio with the Cats football team.
That's true, but that's been a while. What year was the...
That was December of 2023.
2023, we were there. This just in...
Yeah, we were in San Diego just now. Both of us
January 1st, yeah. We were there. What did we say? The latest that Arizona... It was January 2nd, right?
Yeah.
Latest that Arizona has ever played in the calendar day for a bowl game.
Was the second or the third?
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was after the first.
That's right.
That's what it was.
It wasn't the first.
But yes, so... You don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves, but the plan is for me to go to San Diego with the Cats for the first two games. Jaosn will go to San Jose, and if the basketball gods are with the Wildcats and everything tips off right and bounces their way, then we'll both be in Indianapolis for the Final Four. And Jaosn, I've covered a lot of sporting events, so have you. I've never been to a Final Four, and so... even when it was in Phoenix, didn't have the opportunity to go in Glendale. So I'm really looking forward to going to the Final Four, and hopefully the Wildcats will bring home a championship that we haven't seen since the 90s.
97, yeah. I hope if we go to Indianapolis, we're with a lot of people from Tucson who go with us. I did go to that Final Four in Phoenix. North Carolina won.
Yeah, you did.
I think that was right before COVID.
Right, it was.
It was a year or two before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Was it 19 or 18?
18 or 19.
Yeah.
No, maybe 17 or 18, whatever. I think 17 or 18. I did go to that. I didn't cover it, though. I think I just went as to watch a game. And I remember the court being at a different level that the bench was at.
Yes, they put it up higher.
Yeah, I didn't love that for some reason.
I'm not a fan of that either, but they do that a lot of times when you've got such a vast football stadium. You need to get the court up so everybody can see it. Maybe they're not as far away from it. We'll see what Lucas Oil has to offer if we get a chance to get there.
One thing we know is things like that matter, right? After what happened with the Big 12 tournament and the court,
right?
And they inflated the balls. We hadn't heard about inflated balls since Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
No, and I thought that was one of the more interesting things that came out of that. It wasn't that the court. The LED core is a little softer, but because it was a little softer, Tommy Lloyd said they had to overinflate the balls so they would bounce the same. And guess what happens when you bounce it on the court? It might have a little bit of the same feel because you overinflate it. Right. But as soon as you shoot it and it hits the rim, what does it do? It bounces further back. So it's no wonder all the teams were missing a lot of free throws. There were a lot of free throws missed in those early rounds of the Big 12 tournament.
And for the fan who says they miss Coach Olson, well, today, so we're doing these Wildcat Classic vignettes on KGUN 9 News. And today we're looking back at his 500th win.
Yes.
And I believe in 2 days it's going to be Lute in his own words of why he was crazy to take the Arizona job, or people thought he was at the time. That's awesome. That's going to be, if today's Tuesday, that's going to be Thursday.
And I think coming up later in the week, I have the 2001, the Wildcat Classic on the 2001 team. But I'm also putting together, Jaosn, in case people are interested, more of a long-form story for Thursday as Arizona, on the eve of them tipping off the tournament, of that 2001 team. I'll do an absolutely Arizona on the 2001 team. And just putting it together right now, it just, the one thing that struck me about that 2001 team, and we all know the story that Bobby Olson was battling ovarian cancer and then she passed away on January 1st of 2001. But it was just how galvanizing of a moment that was for that team with Coach Roz and then when Lute finally came back and they really gelled, and that was I don't know that they looked at it as a rallying cry, but it was definitely something they were all able to bond together, and that's that's one of those moments that even 25 years later, those guys talk about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
That sounds super interesting. Okay. All right. This has been the Huddle. K-Gun. Oh, we got to go back to the poll question.
Yep.
I knew I forgot something. I've been out the last couple of weeks. Okay. Our Huddle poll question. So the question was, which of the teams do you think stands in the way the most for Arizona making to the Final Four in the West region? Do you think it's Arkansas, Purdue, Wisconsin, or Gonzaga? Wow. Nobody for Wisconsin or Gonzaga? just with the name?
Nope.
Maybe we don't have a ton of votes so far.
I think we have that could be, but I also think that people are really locked in on, as you mentioned, Arkansas, and Purdue both being teams that were highly regarded and highly ranked.
I think also you're hearing the national media kind of thinking Wisconsin's going to lose to High Point in the first round, and people aren't thinking that this is an all-time Gonzaga team. And, we've seen Purdue recently. They had the best player in the country a couple years ago with Zach Edey. And we're seeing, all the attention now being thrown on Arkansas.
I'll tell you what, though, Matt Painter at Purdue, he'll find a way. He's going to make it tough. If we run into them, let's say we get past Arkansas, running into Purdue is not going to be an easy task. And I think the Gonzaga issue really is the WCC, they got 3 bids, I believe, but if just watching it, the eye test doesn't show you that that this final year of this WCC looks like it's a very good year.
Well, if they got 3 bids, it's as many as the Big East got.
I agree, but it just doesn't pass the eye test for me. St. Mary's isn't nearly as good as we've seen before, and I don't think Gonzaga is either.
Yeah, Arizona actually played St. Mary's
in that exhibition.
A long time ago
was
now.
Now it was the early game. Yeah.
All right, this has been the Huddle, KGUN9's weekly streaming sports talk show for the birthday boy, Pat Parris. I'm Jason Barr, and I'll be here. No, I won't. I'll be on the road possibly. But we'll be here.
I'll be here.
We'll be here next
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I'm coming back Monday.
That's
I'll be here
Pat
Tuesday.
will be here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it from the road.
Pull over from the road.
Or we'll have somebody fill in.
Yeah.
But we'll. It's too important to miss.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, everybody, for watching and voting, and we'll see you next time.